Brian, great.
And he can
Unmute. Wilma's not here yet, am I right?
no, nope, not yet.
Okay.
It's still only 6:28.
She said she was getting on a few minutes ago, so. But I'll get started. I'm going to call her and just see.
She's here.
Great.
Wilma, yeah.
Hi, Wilma. Just calling you.
And Rebecca's here as well.
Oh, great. As soon as you think we should get started, you'll let us know.
There's still a couple of folks who are signing up right now, so
Right.
you may want to give it
Okay.
another minute or two.
Sure, if Brian doesn't mind.
That's okay.
Great, thanks, Brian.
Okay, I think we can start.
Should I get started, then you'll take over, Zachary?
Mhm. And
Okay, I
Rebecca's
just
on
want to
mute.
say, welcome everybody to the Health Senior Social Services Committee of Community Board 8. This is our October meeting. We want to thank Zachary and Will for all the help they always give us, and we want to thank our guest who's coming. Part of our committee is to talk about the judicial system. We've had the DA coming a few times, and we're so pleased that Brian Larkin from the 19th precinct, I think the Community Affairs Division, has agreed to join us and give us an update and be willing to ask all of our questions. So we're looking forward to hearing how safe we are and how much safer we can be. So thank you very much. Zachary, you want to take over and give us what we should do, the rules of the game?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Good evening, everybody. If this is your first time joining us, everyone will remain muted throughout the meeting except for the co-chairs and the presenters. Following the presentation, the co-chairs will call on members of the public wishing to speak. You can participate by going to the reactions icon, pressing raise hand, not the wave or thumbs up buttons. Only press it once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. If you're on the phone, it is *9 to raise hand and *6 to unmute. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once the co-chairs call on you. The chat is for technical support only to help with Zoom software problems, not to ask questions of the co-chairs. They will not see the chats. If you have an older version of Zoom, you will need to go to the participant section where you will find the raise hand feature there. Please do not raise your actual hand or wave at the screen because we may not be able to see you. Chat me. I'm here for support.
Thank you, Zachary. Brian? would
Good
you like
evening.
to-
Good evening. Thank you
so
for
much
having me.
coming.
Thank you. So I'm the community affairs officer at the 19th precinct. Just to go over some things so far this year. As you know, the crime has been a hot topic all over New York City, and we have been up a little bit in crime. But with that being said, the crimes that are being reported, there are arrests being made. So if you follow us on our social media, we're constantly posting the arrests that we make and the success stories that we have. Our biggest issue in the 19th precinct as far as crime are the larcenies, specifically the grand larcenies. And the grand larcenies are over $1,000 of merchandise that is being stolen. And one of the biggest things that we're having an issue in regards to the grand larcenies is the mailbox phishing. So we talk a lot about it at the 19th precinct.
Yeah.
We try to do a lot of outreach for it. At our last community council meeting, we had a postal inspector speak about it. I was crime prevention here. My officer, my old partner, Anthony Nuccio, who I still work with, is crime prevention. He speaks a lot about it. So I want to just go over a few things with that, if that's okay, about mailbox phishing and
Please do, yeah.
yeah. So one way that we're trying to break the habit or the idea is the mailbox phishing. It has to deal with people sending checks in the mail, mostly putting them in the blue mailboxes that we see on the corner. That's picked up usually once a day, and people are sending their checks for rent or their bills, and that mail is being fished out of these mailboxes, and those checks are what we call being washed. So actually it's being washed with an acetone, just a nail polish remover. It's soaked in a bath of a nail polish remover, acetone, and the ink on the check is washed away, and then you're left with a nice dry blank check. The acetone dries very quickly, and you can rewrite that check. And by the time you figure out what happened, your money is gone. And most of those people that are writing checks do it the old-fashioned way, where they get their bank statement in the mail. They find out a month later, which is a lot of time to go by. So one way to combat it is using a Uniball 207 pen, which is special ink that allows you to write the check, and the acetone can't erase from the check. It embeds itself in the fibers of the paper. We hand these out at our meetings. If you want to come by the precinct or anybody wants to come by and grab one, we are lucky enough to have a lot of these. They last a long time. So one will
What's it
last.
called again?
What's that?
What is it called again?
It's the Uniball
Uniball.
207. You can buy them at your stores. They say it on the packaging that it's for permanent ink. It's a security pen.
Okay.
So, but you can come to precinct and grab one.
Oh, I will.
You can grab them at the community council meetings. We hand them out. We go out and do outreach. But the best way to avoid getting a check washed or stolen is the updated way is online banking. I know people sometimes are afraid that online banking is not secure, but that's something that we're trying to get the word out there. That's the most secure way to do things. To write checks online through their online banking system and all these banks, and they'll send that check from their bank straight to where you're paying your bills. You can also pick up a check at the local banks. Some of the banks do it where they'll print you out a check at your local banks. And if you have to put a check in the mail, go straight to the post office. Don't put them in the mailboxes. on the corner, and try to avoid putting them in the mailboxes at your residence, because sometimes it's just behind an unlocked door. And those bins that they fall into are easily accessible, and you don't know how long the mail's sitting there for. So try to check your statements regularly to see if any of this has happened to you. So sign up for those alerts. The quicker you find this out, that is, if it happened to you, the easier it is for us to investigate. We've had luck with some arrests, but it's a big picture. It happens all over the city. It's organized, and we're out there trying to get these criminals off the street. And that is by far the biggest thing that we're trying to get people to fix, is writing their checks and putting them in those mailboxes. Avoid putting them on the weekends, holidays. If you know holidays come up, you won't want those checks sitting in the mailbox for too long. If you have no choice but to put it in there, just try to avoid those things, and take those tips if you can. Also, I just want to mention we have the Columbus Day Parade and the Hispanic Parade this weekend, Sunday and Monday, 2 parades. The president is to be in town this week, so expect some street closures, I believe Thursday. Our next community council meeting is on October 11th, a Tuesday at 7 p.m. and it's at our precinct. We're going to have a representative from the DA's office, and also the transit district commanding officers will be at that meeting. So if there's any questions that you have for transit, the 19 precinct, we do often go into transit and patrol, but our main focus is the street level, even though we do go down. But the commanding officer from transit will be here to answer some questions maybe that you have that are specifically for the subways.
There may be 1 or 2 questions for both the DA and the transit.
Yeah.
Possibility.
Yeah. And November 6th, even though it's about a little over a month away, is the New York City Marathon. We're going to be planning for that. We had a successful United Nations visit here. The president came through our precinct twice. There was a lot of street closures, but it seemed to go well overall with all those people going in and out of the precinct. Park Avenue at the Lowe's Hotel, we had a few people visit there, so we had the street blocked off, but overall everything went pretty smooth. Anybody have questions?
I have
Well,
a question.
should we do anybody from the public first? I don't know if Rebecca is there. Zachary, can you?
I'm there. I'm here.
Okay. Do you want to?
Judy?
Okay.
Oh, you said Judy? Oh.
Judy's a part of the community board, but anybody from the public?
Now Kathy raised her hand.
Good, Kathy.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, thank you for your work,
Thank you.
officer. Your service to the community is greatly appreciated. I'm a
Thank
little
you.
curious, it's not a question, but I thought the newly designed mailboxes with just the slit would have solved that problem, but I guess it didn't.
So it does defeat a lot of the mailbox fishers from getting the mail. Some of the mailboxes have not been switched over, and they're really trying to fix all those mailboxes to retrofit them with the new device. But you know, where there's a will, there's a way, and they do figure things around it, whether they get 30 pieces of mail from a mailbox that hasn't been updated, or a couple of pieces of mail from an updated one. It's still, a victim out there. And the online banking really is, we know, people are afraid of being hacked, and these websites, and they don't, the biggest thing I hear is, I don't want my information out there. But you got to think your information is out there already. If you are if you have a bank, your information is in the system. Just because you don't have an account online doesn't mean that your information is not typed somewhere in a database. Everybody's information is out there, but all these corporations have technology to defeat those hackers that are going to get it. So don't think that you signing up for a bank account, having your information out there. Your information is out there already, whether you believe that or not. Everybody uses computers these days. Everybody usually has a smartphone. We're all here on Zoom. So, the best thing to do is get signed up to those banks that you're affiliated with. If you don't know how to do it, go to the bank. They'll help you out. That's what they do. And get signed up, maybe set up some alerts where you see what's going on. You want to know what's going on in your neighborhood, but you should also know what's going on in your own personal life with your money, which is very important. And keeping that safe is very important. And you can even stop these crimes from happening even further and get worse, where you get an alert and you can call your bank right away and they can stop that process immediately.
Right.
And it really helps.
Yeah.
Then we could look at video camera footage and narrow it down when we find out quicker, rather than a month later. Some video it goes away when we're trying to get residents, buildings footage. It only saves for so long, so that's also helps us.
One quick question, my actual question.
Mhm.
I'm sure you're aware that the situation of homelessness is growing, is a terrible tragedy. We're watching this unfolding, and it's. I'm wondering what the precinct can do when with the situation of homeless people. There's a homeless woman who lives now right on the side of our building. I'm fearful if I call the police. Are there shelters? Are the shelters any good? What's your position on the rising tide of homelessness?
So that's another big issue that we have questions with, is homelessness. So there's different things with homelessness. There's people that need help, and we need to get out there and offer them that help. So if you see somebody on the street, we are getting into those months that are getting colder. And you can always call 311. Being homeless is not a crime, but there are things that sometimes that a homeless person may be out there doing that could be committing a crime or a violation, and we'd like to know about it. If they're blocking a doorway, if they're drinking out in public, even if they're like a danger to themselves, and they need some medical attention, you call 311, or if they're being disorderly, you have to call 911. What we'll do as the police department, we'll go out there and we'll assess the situation. We'll offer them help. If we need an ambulance, get them to the hospital, we'll get them to the hospital. For as far as the shelters, when it becomes a situation where we have maybe an encampment, and individual is setting up on certain blocks or areas or promenades, we've had issues. We'll go out there. We call it a cleanup. We'll go out there with the different departments, homeless services. We'll go out with sanitation. We'll talk to the individual. We'll offer them those services. Sometimes they don't have to take them. It's optional, but we'll have to clean up the area. We'll talk to them, but we're always offering them social services to get them the help that they need. And we hope that they take them. And that's the most that we can really do. Unless they're a real danger to themselves and they have to be forced against their will to be brought to a hospital, then we'll do that.
Kathy's my neighbor. There's one other we've talked about. There's a man that's on 2nd Avenue, the northwest corner of 2nd Avenue and 86th Street. He just lies down in the middle of the street, and I actually saw him reading a book while he was lying there. He really is in the middle of the street, and he's not causing any problem except he's using the street. Is there anything that can be done with that?
Contacting,
Really, like, am I right, Kathy, in the middle of the sidewalk? He really.
In the middle of the sidewalk, correct.
contacting 311, taking, as long as you're from a safe distance and you're not gonna be causing.
Yeah, I don't think
Because sometimes these people have they have a mental condition and they see you taking a picture. If you can take a picture from afar and put it on 311, and then when either if we get it as the police department or the homeless services for the city gets it, we'll have a better idea of what's going on, and either we'll go out there or the homeless services will go out there and offer him help. But if unless he's if he's in the street in the traffic lane that
No, it's a
that
sidewalk.
if it's a sidewalk and they're laying down, they're not blocking pedestrian traffic or doorways. There's not really much we could do in that case other than go and talk to them. When I say blocking traffic, if you're walking down the sidewalk and they're sitting there and you're able to walk around them, that's fine. They're not blocking traffic.
Okay.
According to the laws.
If I may follow up with a question, an answer you gave to Kathy. So if you break up these encampments, you can say you can offer what happens to the homeless. I know the encampments are ugly, but are they better off in an encampment where they seem to have some furniture and some protection? Or
well, there's some areas that we've had problems over and over where we've cleaned up and they've came back.
yeah,
We just will continue to go out there. We don't want these people relying on the streets to live. We want to push them to get the help that they need. So unfortunately, we're not going to allow the encampments to happen. It's against city ordinance where they're not allowed to set up a camp, and it could be dangerous for them.
but the alternative is, you feel the alternative is better than the encampment, is what you think?
What's that? The
The
alternative?
alternative is better than,
Yeah, the alternative for them getting help is absolutely always better than them.
if they
continuing
get
to
help.
live in the
Okay,
street. Yeah.
all right.
That's what we're
Okay.
always striving for them to do, and we'll continue that. We want to get them the help that they need, and whether it's a medical doctor or get them back on their feet, and get back into society and off the streets. That's
Yeah,
main
I
goal.
think this is what we all want. It's just the means to get it is difficult.
And they need to want it too, so we need to offer it to them, and we're going to continue to do that.
Rebecca?
Next, we have Kathleen Steed.
Yes, on the same subject. I'm in the block that's across from Rupert Towers, and there's a particularly dirty, not very well aware homeless man that sleeps in the Starbucks on the corner of 91st or 92nd and 3rd. When I was going to the supermarket, I went down there. He defecates on himself. His pants were down, but by the time I came back up, his pants were not down. Now, I never know what is if I had notified somebody with his pants down, this is some kind of thing that he's not supposed to be doing in public.
Mhm.
Or once he put his pants back up or somebody covered him up with a sheet. It's 311. How do I decide where to notify it?
Yeah, 311 would help. I mean, if you're witnessing him with his pants down, you can call 911, and the officers will go over there, and if he needs to go to the hospital or get social services get clothing or clean up, we'll help him with that. But 311 is going to get him the homeless outreach services that they go around the city and visiting these individuals. It helps that documenting that on 311 is definitely encouraged.
And when you said take a photograph, what do you do with the photograph?
Well, if you're doing it on the 311 app or online, because you can make these 311 plates through the application on your phone or through the internet, and you can attach photos.
I didn't realize 311 was on the internet, so you've informed me of something I didn't know about.
Yeah, and the good thing about that is easy to keep track of your complaints when you make one, because it's all logged on your phone or your account, I guess, when you make one.
Okay, somebody knows him from the neighborhood and said he was once employed and lived in Rupert Towers. And
It's sad.
anyway, he likes the other side of the street since he can't sleep at Rupert's.
I will note the location and pass that
And
information
I'm
along.
going to follow up with that too. The frustratings I've had with 311 is they ask for an exact address and I often don't know the exact address. Do you have to, can you say the northwest corner of 86th Street? You can do that now. Okay.
Yeah, you should be able to give them a cross street
Okay.
would be
That's
fine. Yeah, or a boundary like Third Avenue between two streets.
Okay. Rebecca?
Next, we have Judy Schneider. But Kathleen still has her hand. I don't know if she had a follow-up question first.
Yeah, I just wanted to say he's not there today. Somebody cleaned him up, but he's regularly there.
Mhm.
So just to.
Yeah, for the next time. Yeah,
Mhm.
we'll still keep an eye on the location.
All right.
Sometimes we what happens is we approach a homeless person and they move from one location to the next. So we've had
Right.
issues on Second Avenue that's close by there. So it could be that one person moving to another spot.
Now, the Starbucks has both a large recessed doorway, two large recessed doorways on the corner. So it's yeah, I guess a good place to sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Judy?
Yes, good evening. Good evening, Officer Larkin. Thank you. And I want to thank all the officers at the 19th for the terrific job they do for the community. Please pass that along.
I will.
To the inspector on down to everybody. I do have one question. You mentioned the 19th Community Council meeting on the 11th. Will that also be a virtual meeting?
I will have to find that out. We're trying to switch back to in person completely, just because there's not really a way for us to get questions across for the 19th through the online. We want to encourage people to come in. I will see. I think we had some technical issues for the last community council. But
Well, you did a couple of them and that
Yeah.
worked well. And right now it's difficult for us to get out.
yeah,
So-
I will look and see if our technology is going to be up and running. And the last time we had an issue with I don't know if it was the microphone or one of the phones or the account that we couldn't get into, but I will make sure that we have it this time around.
Thank you.
Rebecca?
Next, we have Bill. Bill, and then we'll go back
Bill,
to Kathleen.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Officer Larkin, for your time. Just a question. I recall reading an article before COVID with respect to homeless and people with limited capacity, that there is a program within NYPD that a social worker is embedded with the NYPD, and that started in the Bronx. So, you know anything about that? About our program? Has this program been expanded beyond the Bronx?
Is it the social worker for the homelessness? Or
Yes.
there isn't one in our precinct, so it probably hasn't been expanded yet. The only social workers that we have is Safe Horizon, which deals mostly with domestic violence and senior safety.
I see.
Seniors, yeah.
So have you heard about that in the Bronx?
I haven't heard of that pilot program.
Okay. I'm just curious. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathleen again?
Okay, had a hard time doing the sound. I have always had a terrible time trying to find a Zoom link or how to contact or how to go to one of the meetings that's online, the precinct community council meeting. So where is the best place to look for a Zoom link or? if there
I'm
is
glad you
one?
brought that up. So on the same note of creating accounts, with Twitter and Facebook, you don't need an account to look at our Twitter page. So, and that's another thing I hear is I don't have Twitter, but if you have Google, you just type in at NYPD 19 PCT. The first thing that'll pop up is our Twitter page, and you can click it and visit that web page. And we always have a link to our community council meetings or our build-a-block meetings when we're Zooming them. So it again, or you could just type in NYPD 19 precinct Twitter and it'll pop up, but the Twitter handle is the @ NYPD 19 PCT. And you, like I said, you don't need an account, and you don't need an account to not only get the links, but you could see, all the things that we do, and wanted photos, and we have mailbox fishing flyers on there, and a lot of good stuff.
Okay, well, thank you so much. As I said, I missed a couple of meetings because I couldn't find them. Couldn't find
Yeah,
them.
yeah, we're always posting them on there all the time. Just
Okay,
gotta
thank you.
scroll through and you'll find it.
Rebecca, when everybody else is done, I have a series of questions just to let you know.
I think you can ask your questions and
Okay.
everyone can still raise their hand if they think of something else.
Will say, officer, I'm embarrassed to say I went for the first time to the precinct community meeting, and it was so interesting. I really think it was enlightening. So I want to thank you for it and encourage other people to go and learn about it. At the meeting, there was a lot of statistics about how many arrests are made and so on. What we hear, you may make the arrest. What happens? Does anybody get put away? I mean, is there any bail at all? What happens to somebody when you make the arrest? What is the next step?
So low-level nonviolent crimes,
And what is low level? Can you just define?
misdemeanors, there are certain felonies that that they won't be there won't be bail set. So how the process works is someone's stealing from a store and it's under $1,000 and it's a misdemeanor. They will be taken to the precinct and processed. Photos will be taken, printed, and if they qualify for a desk appearance ticket, they will be released from the precinct. And they will be the desk appearance ticket is basically saying that they have to go to arraignment to court on a certain date, and if they don't appear, then there'll be a warrant for them. And if they're meet up with the police again, then they'll be brought in on that warrant to see the judge. Now, the other thing that could happen is we bring them in and they don't qualify for a desk appearance ticket because they have a warrant. They have to go down to see the judge, and the judge will arraign them and give them a court date. And if there's no bail set for a misdemeanor, then with a warrant, then they'll be released to back out, and they're back out, and they have to go back to court at that next court date that they get at arraignment. And the other thing is, if it's a felony for a violent crime, like a murder, rape, some robberies, where there's serious injuries, they will be held on a bail, and the judge can set the bail at a certain amount.
And if they can pay for it, they can be let.
Yes, yes, and a lot of the times we see, since our grand larcenies are the most frequent that we have, they're arrested, processed, and if they're brought downtown, and then they're released.
Right.
And then they're back
Thank
out
you.
and happens again. We
Tell me what grand larceny, what would fall into
over
grand,
$1,000 of stolen goods. Yeah.
right? What we hear on the news, and it may be a little bit of hyperbole, is somebody was murdered by somebody that had 19 previous convictions.
Right.
Is this an everyday thing? Is this,
Well, the murder, you're talking about recidivism, like in general?
well, I don't know. I don't think so. I thought it was more that they were picked up and then let go because they weren't considered serious enough crime. Is that something you hear about?
Well, we have with the new reform, we do have I believe it's about, we've pinpointed about 40 individuals that make up the majority of
Yeah, that's
our
what-
crime in the 19 precinct. And 40 individuals could have been arrested 300 more times this year, just this year.
Mhm.
So year to date, with those 40, they've been, on average arrested 10 or more times each. Some, hold a lot more, where one may have been arrested 5 times and someone has 20 arrests just in the 19 precinct. That's not including the rest of the city.
But
where
not
they-
necessarily separated from society, right? I mean, they may have been arrested and then they're back on the street.
Right, so the reform, I believe, doesn't allow the judge to look at a previous
Hmm.
crime that was committed and take that in account. Whereas like you committed grand larceny today, and then tomorrow you committed another grand larceny, the judge doesn't look at the day before it's grand larceny. They can't take that in account, and it's individual, each crime, and that's why they're let out one after the next.
Is that frustrating? It must be very
I
frustrating.
think it's frustrating for all of us, yes.
Yes, I hear
And I
about
think we're trying to work with the,
it.
like we're trying to get that legislation back to where we have a little bit of discretion as a judge to make those calls. And I think we're heading in the right direction, but we work well with the DA when we have a pattern, and we finally catch the individual, let's say like the mailbox fishers, and we are charging them with multiple crimes. The DA is working with us to really get them to stay, in jail with no bail or a bail set.
I'm going to ask you 2 questions. A couple of us on a call sat at the community board table in the freezing weather yesterday, and we always get people coming and talking about it. So I'm going to give you 2 issues. One I actually heard when I went to the precinct meeting, and that's right by Chick-fil-A between 86th and 87th Street on 3rd Avenue, the west side of 3rd Avenue. A lot of, not serious crime, but a lot of triple parking. The bikes are there. And the issue was, I think that the inspector said that she would come and look at it. I wonder, so I could write to this person and say, is there?
Yeah, we've been in direct contact with some people that have made complaints about it, and we've
Right.
had our officers out there issuing summonses. It's one of those areas that it just seems that we will go there and hit it with violations and summonses, and if we have to take some of those scooters, we do. And then when we leave, it could go right back to normal, like, well, not normal, but what you're seeing.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating because it's just that corner is with the
Chick-fil-A and then
Chick-fil-A. It's a very popular spot, and people think that they're only going to be there for a few seconds,
right.
and they may be, but we're going there. We're hitting them with summonses. The commanding officer has been out to look at the location, and we have had our officers there, but it's just we can't put somebody there all the time like we want to. But we do have 86th Street posts that
Yes.
do patrol the area, and they are aware of it, and we're trying to clean that up.
Right.
Yeah,
I see the police more on Lexington Avenue than 3rd Avenue, and you see like 3 or 4 together. Maybe can they spread out was another comment. Can't they spread out a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah,
The officers should be, sometimes they come together because I've seen it a lot last week, especially. They've had a lot of arrests on in that area. So when they respond to jobs, they respond two at a time. So if you see them together, or they might even respond more. So if you see them together, they could have just finished a job or could be responding to a job. They're not going to go by themselves. So
right.
see
I
them.
understand. Okay, thank you. I'll know the answer. Another suggestion from, I'm sorry.
Judy
Rebecca?
has her hand. Judy
Okay,
has her hand.
This question is really for Courtney. Based on what Officer Larkin was just talking about, is Assembly Member Seawright or Senator Kruger doing anything or looking at anything about the laws that they passed in Albany about bail, that it isn't working exactly the way it should be? Are they thinking about making any changes? If not, Courtney, could you bring that back to Rebecca?
Sure, I'll bring that back
I
to
mean,
her.
I know it's both the city and the state, but I think the state needs to look at that. Our police officers have been having this problem for some time.
right.
The law changed. So I just wanted to bring that up. I'm sorry, Barbara. Go ahead.
Judy, I wonder, let me finish my questions. Do you think we should have a resolution to say we urge for reconsideration? Or that would be up to you, Judy, if you feel that it's right, or somebody else.
Yes, Barry, or no? Barry?
Let me finish asking my questions and then we could go back to it, Judy, if that's okay.
Just really quickly, I think maybe if we want to bring in a resolution before the full board, we should have it as an agenda item for our next meeting, because I'm sure there are many people here who might want, who aren't here today, who might want to comment on it.
Thank you, Rebecca, because Barry just whispered that in my ear. The very same comment. It should be an agenda item.
Okay, I thought this would be thing. Let me tell another person that came to our desk. I think Bill was with me when this happened. She had, I think, a very good suggestion. On the 86, the Lex 456, on the downtown side, there is a booth. There used to be a booth on both the uptown and downtown. Is it possible so there's really like no eyes on the uptown side? Is it possible for possibly, I don't think we can reinstate a booth, but for somebody to come down maybe periodically or anything on the north side to see if anything is going wrong? There was a feeling of lack of protection on the subway coming home.
We have subway, like I said earlier, we mainly patrol the streets, but we do go down into the subway. We do have cops from the 19th precinct patrolling the subway. They do switch locations and platforms. So you might not see them there at certain times. They may be there at certain times. As far as having someone down there all the time, that would be a great question for our community council meeting when we have the CO from transit there. But the officers are switching around. They usually move around a little bit to cover more ground. But I understand that maybe that spot needs a little bit more focus. So I can bring it up to the CO of transit.
Okay, we had the DA come, and looting was a major question from the public at that point. And they said they were starting a small business group which included Target, which some of us may not think of as small business, but to sort of discuss the looting issue and what can be done about it and what legally can be done about it, because I know there are laws you have to follow. Do you know what the status? Looting is still a major problem, I think, in our area, and stores are closing, and it affects our community when stores close. Not only are the items more expensive, but when a store closes, it's very dark and not cleaned up in the same way, and we don't have the services that we had. So do you know the status of the small business?
I can find out. I know that we've had a meeting with the DA, and they had the small businesses all on the Zoom, and we spoke with that group and gave them tips and spoke about certain incidences. We had questions and answers. So I think they do have I think it's a small business alliance that they have with the DA. But they're going to be here on the 11th, so I can follow up with them and see how it's going.
I thought I had one more, but I know. Something that came up at the precinct meeting is it ghost guns? And it was told that they don't know much. And what are ghost guns? How serious is it? Is it something in the 19th precinct that is something to worry about? And
so we don't necessarily see that in our precinct.
What is it? What is a ghost gun?
A ghost gun is a gun that could be, with the technology that we can have in our house. It's a 3D
printing.
So you can basically print a receiver, which is the lower part of the gun, the trigger part, and then you could purchase the rest of the gun parts online and build yourself.
And there's no serial number.
There's no serial number. So certain parts of the gun you need to purchase from a gun dealer. Those parts can now be built in your house, and then the rest of the parts that you don't need, you can purchase online. You can build the rest of the gun and have a gun. We don't see that in our precinct. Not to say that we don't have it here. It's just it's not a big issue that we have with firearms, ghost guns. But we're aware of it. Our officers do know about it. Any weapons we handle. It's something we're trained on.
And is there more you're doing because of the Supreme Court decision about open gun law? Is there more nervousness about it because of it? Is things we should be more nervous about, or?
No, so we're constantly being
better, please.
as soon as these laws are being passed, or before even, we're being trained on what to look out for, and what people's rights are, and what's allowed and what's not allowed. We're not nervous about it. We're being updated by the police department and our legal team, and I think you see it in the news. Certain locations you're not allowed to carry. Other states you are allowed to freely carry, and then they come here not knowing the law. So we understand all the different scenarios we might run into. We have a lot of, other than the NYPD, we have a lot of other departments, FBI, Secret Service in the city. So, and we have other law enforcement agencies around. So we're trained in other people carrying guns that are not in uniform, and how to handle those situations. As far as the residents of the 19th precinct, if you see a weapon and something looks suspicious, and it looks out of place and it's not a uniform officer, by all means, give 911 a call and get a good description of the individual. We've had it before where, it's just an off-duty police officer. Their shirt was pulled up and they were carrying their weapon, and it was not a big deal. And there's been other instances where the individual was arrested for carrying a weapon. So just be vigilant, and if you're unsure of something, we just suggest you call 911. If we don't get those 911 calls, a lot of the times we don't know about it. So
We'll do that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think I have finished. Does anybody else want to? Rebecca, anybody else's hand?
I don't see any other hands up.
Wilma, does Wilma have? I just want to thank you. I will tell you again that the 19th precinct, it was such a well-run meeting. The inspector honored several, what are they, officers or whatever their title
Cops of
is,
the month. Mhm.
for doing really very brave work. And public safety is a major issue in our area. Anything from the homeless to looting to more difficult things. And we appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you. And yeah, we like to see new people at the meetings, and we try to have like kind of the same run of a meeting where we do the cops of the month, but something we like to do new at every meeting is have a new guest speaker, and
Right.
just kind of keep it,
I
fresh.
am going to bring up one other thing. I'm sorry that was brought up, and a pet peeve of mine. So I understand that the mayors want to remain safe. I live near Carshers Park. I use it. I love going on the ferry. And what was frustrating more so under the de Blasio time is I never know what route I can take, because you go and all of a sudden it's closed.
Yeah.
One of the problems was that there's stairs. There's very few routes where you can go without the stairs to get onto it. And twice, I was once with somebody, and another time somebody happened to be there where they were not that capable of walking.
Okay.
And so I had to walk from 91st Street, because that's where the stairs are, planning on getting in on 87th Street, at 86th Street, and it was locked up and had to go all the way to 84th Street to go back to 91st Street. My suggestion was, obviously somebody with a walker is not going to be dangerous. Can you just move the barrier and let somebody go by?
That's what I was gonna say. If you're in the area and you see there's a closure, most of the time when there are closures, we have officers there. Just let the officer know.
I did, and he said he could move it.
Okay, and I'm there.
I was under de Blasio. That wasn't under Adams.
Yeah, we've had a larger footprint under de
Okay.
Blasio. We've kind of made that a lot smaller. So if you see someone in my uniform there or me there, I'm there when we do a lot of the closures. Well, I'll walk you to where you need to go, and that shouldn't be a problem. We will instruct the officers that if that arises, to accommodate people that need to get where they're going.
Yeah, it won't just make
I
our
understand.
feel
Yeah.
more of our part.
And if we see that we're not having these pop-up protests, which we have had, and people throwing stuff, and I've been involved where they were throwing paint, and I had to step in paint, and it was a mess, and graffiti, and if that all goes away, and then maybe we won't have to worry about the barriers.
That's what we need, more graffiti around and all that, right? Yeah.
Wilma had her hand up,
Okay.
but she just lowered it. But maybe can we try and unmute Wilma and make sure she doesn't have any questions?
Yeah. Wilma, if you can unmute now. If you look on your screen or the bottom of the screen, you should see a option to unmute.
All the way on the left is the same thing. Does she have the same thing?
Should.
It's all an icon all the way on the left, Wilma. Yeah.
All right.
Do you want to call me and I will relate the question or put it on speaker? We're not getting a response?
Yeah, no
I
response.
think maybe if you can call her quickly, we can try it that
Okay.
way. That's a good
I will
idea.
try it very quickly. I will call her. I'm putting her on speaker.
Hi,
Hi,
Barbara.
what is your question? And I'll,
I'm so sorry, I couldn't get through.
okay,
But all of my questions were about gang violence that's happening in my area, and nobody talked about it. So I think this should be done another time because the meeting is almost over.
no, it's not. Well, we have time to ask you a question. Do you have specific questions? Can people hear her?
I spoke to the Sector D officers about what to do when the gangs coming from uptown to fight with the teenagers and young men in my area. And they told me to call 311. I'm not 311, 911.
911.
But there needs to be something more to that, to call somebody closer. I mean, schools 911 is with the president, and you hear gang violence happening and threatening with guns. What are you supposed to do then? Who do you call?
Do you mind if I tell that where you live? I don't know if you heard it. Wilma lives in Stanley Isaacs.
Yeah.
He's saying that there's the gangs from uptown come with guns and really 911 is difficult. Is not. What would you answer?
911's the first thing to do. If you shouldn't have any issues with calling 911 and relaying over a disorderly group. So if you see a group of individuals, maybe just the way you're describing the situation is difficult for 911 to understand. But if it's a group of individuals and they're being disorderly, I would use that terminology to 911 that there's a disorderly group. If you see a weapon, obviously let 911 know. I just don't assume there is. Just let 911 know there's a disorderly group. If you got a head count of how many, which direction they're going, if you know where they're headed, if you hear something that's going to be happening, definitely reach out to the NCO, Sector David, or the housing, and let them know that you hear of something, because then we could reach out to our other assets in the NYPD, the gangs unit, and let them know that there's individuals going to be meeting at this time and place. But if you see it happening,
This is
911. You shouldn't have an issue. They're tied in directly with us on patrol, and they give us the locations, and that's how we work as a police department to communicate.
okay. Wilma, here, let me put you on speaker again. There was too much feedback with
You
the
probably
people.
heard me through the.
You heard, yes, you heard what the officer said, I assume, right, Wilma?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Okay, I think the word disorderly sounds like it's not, I think of disorderly as kids that are yelling and screaming, and it sounds like it's a little bit more menacing than that, so,
I think it should be a stronger word used.
yeah, what word
I
would,
told him it's gang. I said gang.
I mean, you could say there's a gang or a group. I mean, if they're fighting, you describe it as it is. If they're fighting,
or taunting and threatening?
yeah. If they're damaging property, try to describe it best of what you're witnessing to that 911 operator. If you can give descriptions of clothing, if they're wearing, descriptive clothing, give us that information. We're gonna go to the location and try to find those groups and break it up. And if they've broken a law, we're gonna make an arrest. But I have to check with Sector David and see what information they've gotten from 911 about these groups, or if they've heard anything from anybody else. But do you know, like, is it on the weekends that this is occurring?
It happened a few days ago. I
Okay,
took
so-
it back from speaker because the speaker gives feedback a few days ago.
Reach out to Sector David. I will let them know that you're gonna reach out to them. We'll get more information on that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else, Wilma?
I was going to talk about the bikes, the e-bikes that run through St. Isaac, and they don't get off of them to walk through, they just drive through, and it's causing a lot of people jump out of their way. And I don't think that's right. When they in other areas, they get off the bike and they walk in or they walk towards the buildings. But they didn't think it's all right to just ride or run through. I did report a store, and they did try to keep the bike for 3 weeks. But they gave me back the bike and it's back again.
Yeah. So we do a lot of confiscation with illegal bicycles or mopeds or gas or electric, and we do confiscation if they pay the ticket and they have proof of ownership, or they register the bike with the DOT or the DMV. They can get their bike or vehicle back. But we probably write more summonses to bicycles and those types of vehicles than any other precinct in the city. And we have
Yeah, they take care of those summonses, and if they do have a lot of them, what they do
so
about that? I mean, how they
it's a moving violation. So the more you get and the more you unanswer, you'll become you'll become have a suspended license. You'll generate a license number, and
There's no license with bikes or e-bikes.
no, but if you receive a summons for a moving violation, you'll automatically be issued a like a driver's license number, whether you have one or not. And if you receive another ticket, you become you become getting like a, I'm trying to think, we call it 511, an unlicensed, not an unlicensed, a revoked. It's a law where if you have too many summonses unpaid, whether you have a license or not, you could be arrested for it. It's a misdemeanor, low level crime, but you could be arrested for it.
thank you.
I have to say, I'm hanging up, Wilma. I have to say, sitting at the community board meeting, we were all laughing by the end. We did not get one bike question. This was a first, Russell. You wouldn't believe it. It was a first that there was no bike question. So you must be doing something right, officer. You could say there were others. The homeless was a big issue, and other types of things.
We are out there. Our basement is full of bicycles and scooters, and we have a lot. So we're out there. We're out there getting them.
Rebecca, any other question?
No, I just want to reiterate my thanks for joining us, and we appreciate everything you do.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, we do. Thank you. Keep us safe, please.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. And thank you, Zachary and Will.